The story begins as we see a boy named Akira reading by himself, but another student named Nanase asks him if he likes isekai stories. So he notes that he just reads anything he can find for free, and he overhears some girls talking about how they didn't even realize he was in their class. But a portal suddenly appears above them. They're all teleported to a mysterious place, where a man named Chamberlain notes that the king will speak to them, but when they start asking questions, he tells them to stay quiet. The king reveals that they're in the kingdom of Urtis, which is the largest nation on the human continent, but we learn that it's being attacked by the demons. He explains that only a hero who will be selected from them can defeat the demon lord, but Akira is happy to learn about it, since it's exactly like one of his isekai stories. Chamberlain tells them to place their hands on a crystal ball and say the word status in their minds, so that everyone can see their stats. One of the students is disappointed to learn that he isn't the hero, but Chamberlain mentions that his starting stats are above average, so he can still go down in history by helping the hero. All the students check their stats, and Akira realizes that he's been classified as an assassin, but Nanase thinks it suits him, since their classmates don't even know he's in their class. A boy named Sato ends up getting selected as the hero, and Chamberlain mentions that his attack power is insane, but Akira is confused since he has the highest stats in their class. Nanase tells him to go to the crystal, but he thinks it might cause problems for him if he reveals his abnormal stats, and he isn't even sure if the king is telling the truth about the demon lord. So he decides to use a skill called Conceal Presence to make himself invisible, and he manages to hide from everyone. After that, Chamberlain tells them to rest for the night, but Akira notices a camera and realizes they're being monitored, so he thinks something suspicious is going on. At night, Akira goes out to investigate, and as he looks around, he realizes that they really are in a different world. He jumps onto a castle, and he's surprised by how athletic he is, but he hears the king talking with the princess, so he hides his presence and listens in. The king asks her if everything's going according to their plan, and she mentions that the students are from a world without magic, so they won't cause problems. He tells her to keep them out of the castle archives, since they can't have them learning too much, so Akira thinks they're up to no good. As he's standing behind the king, he thinks about how he can end his life immediately, but he decides against it and leaves. The next day, Akira wonders if he should tell everyone what he learned, but he doesn't know how to make them believe him. Sato notes that they got stronger after coming to the world, telling everyone he wants to use his powers to help the king, and they all agree with him. After that, they meet a knight commander named Saran, who notes that he'll be the one training them. He mentions that after 1 month, they'll go to a dungeon to test their strength, but he knows they have no clue about how the world works. Meanwhile, Akira continues his investigation, but Saran notices him, which surprises Akira, since he never turned off his Conceal Presence skill. He wonders if it wore off since it has reached its max duration, so Saran notes that his skill is still active, but he has special eyes that let him see the changes in temperature. Akira prepares to fight him, but Saran tells him to stay calm since he won't tell the king, which surprises him, and he asks Saran if he isn't on the king's side. So he mentions that the situation is complicated, and Akira tells him he wants to read the archives since he knows nothing about this world. Saran asks him about the level of his Conceal Presence skill, so he reveals that it's maxed out, but mentions that his other skills are at level 1, and he has no idea how to raise them. Saran offers to teach him, and he mentions that Akira won't find what he's looking for in the archives, which makes him think about how excited he's been since coming to the new world. But he still needs to find a way to get back to his family, and Saran has no idea how he can return to his world, but he thinks Akira still needs to get stronger to survive. Akira doesn't like to accept help for free, so Saran notes that he can pay him by telling him stories about his world, since he wants to learn about it. After that, they begin their training, and Akira wonders if it will really help him increase his skill level. So Saran mentions that a person can only level up their class by eliminating monsters, but skills can be leveled up through training. He mentions that in addition to humans and demons, there are also elves and beast folk in their world, but they all live on different continents, and Akira tells him about his world as part of their deal. A knight named Gillis tells Saran that the other students are progressing well, but he complains about his workload, which is too much for him since Saran only focuses on Akira. He mentions that Akira's stories about his world are interesting, and he tells Gillis that Akira's Conceal Presence skill is maxed out, which surprises him since only the first hero was able to achieve that. Akira arrives and shows Saran a book he found in the archives, so he reveals that he wrote it and disguised it as a recipe book, but he was sure that Akira would find it. He notes that their king has lost his mind, so they can't just stand by and let him do whatever he pleases, but the knights owe a great debt to the royal family. Akira notes that after he read the book, he realizes that Saran is looking for a peaceful end to the king's reign, but he thinks it would be easier if he just killed the king, since he has no ties to the world. He mentions that on the night they were summoned, he snuck into the king's study and had the opportunity to end his life, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Saran thinks he made the right choice, since killing a man is a huge burden to carry, and he notes that even though Akira has been given the assassin class, he doesn't need to eliminate anyone. Akira agrees with him, since he knows that if he ended someone's life, his mother and sister would never forgive him. He asks Saran why he's looking out for him, so he explains that it's because he has high hopes for him, since instead of following what everyone is doing, he's using his mind to choose another path. He thinks that only someone who has endured a lot in life can do that, and Akira tells him he's the first person to praise him, but he asks Akira to help him with his coup in exchange. After a month, Saran leads the students to the dungeon, but Akira is surprised to see the number of people who have come to see them off. He sees a girl staring at them, so he asks her if something's wrong, and she's annoyed at how everyone treats them as heroes. She reveals that a lot was sacrificed to summon them, but he has no idea what she's talking about, so she notes that they'll speak again when he discovers the answer on his own. As they reach the dungeon, they start defeating the monsters, but they start to get overwhelmed, so Akira suggests retreating, and Saran thinks it's a good idea. He uses his divine sword to clear a path, and they rush to the exit, but they run into another group of monsters. Sato remembers the smoke bomb he was given to keep the monsters away, and he tries to use it, but he's shocked to see that it only made them stronger. Gillis and Akira catch up to them, and Gillis is shocked to see a minotaur attacking them, while Akira immediately rushes towards it. He dodges its attack and tries to stab its neck, but his sword shatters since its skin is too tough, and Sato tries to help him. But Akira tells him to stop since his arms are broken, and he notes that it's his job as the hero to protect them, but Akira tells Sato that they can take care of themselves. He starts to lose his mind since he thinks he has failed as the hero, and Akira tells a girl to use Dispel on Sato while he goes to fight the Minotaur. He notes that he plans to use his secret skill, since he needs to fight with everything he's got, so Saran tells him to wait for his signal. Saran's body starts glowing, and he hits the Minotaur with a lightning strike, while Akira activates his shadow magic. The Minotaur tries to hit Saran with its axe, but Akira stabs it with his shadow spikes, and he starts reeling it into the darkness. He manages to cut off its head, but he starts to lose control over his magic, so Saran calms him down. After they return to the castle, Saran thanks Akira since they were able to survive thanks to him, but he notes that Saran is the one who stopped his magic from going berserk. Saran mentions that the spell takes a toll on Akira's body, so even though it's powerful, he should only use it when he has no other choice. Saran gives him a katana forged by the first hero, and he wonders why Saran isn't giving it to Sato, so he mentions that he doesn't want the king to notice it, since he stole it from the royal armory. He mentions that the katana's name is written on the hilt, and he notes that he can't read it, but Akira knows the language since it's inscribed in Japanese. He reads a message from the first hero, which mentions that he hopes the katana will find its rightful successor, and Akira wishes that he could have met him. Akira is still worried about Sato, since the curse on him was insanely strong, and Saran thinks he knows who's behind it. At night, we see the princess using a crystal to curse Sato, but Akira appears behind her and cuts the crystal in half. He asks her why she cursed Sato, but she refuses to tell him anything, and after he leaves, she opens up a cabinet with a huge number of crystals, which she plans to use on the students. After that, Akira tells Saran his suspicions were right, and he asks Akira if he showed himself to the princess, so he notes that he tried to get information from her, but she didn't give him a straight answer. Saran mentions that she's just the king's puppet, and he tells Akira he shouldn't stay in the castle tonight, since she'll curse every other student except for the hero. But she can't do it to Akira, since she knows nothing about him, so she'll try to have him eliminated. He asks Saran why he isn't scolding him for revealing himself, so he notes that kids are bound to make mistakes, and it's the adult's job to take care of them. Akira wishes there were people like him in his world, so Saran tells him to take him when he goes back, since he wants to see what it's like. The next day, as Akira wakes up, he sees that all the students have gathered outside, so he goes to check what's going on, and he's shocked to see that Saran was killed. Everyone blames him since Saran was killed with the same dagger he was using, and the king orders the knights to capture him, but he uses his conceal presence skill to turn invisible. He gets close to Gillis, who reveals that Saran was killed by the king's personal assassins called the Night Ravens, but he left instructions for Akira in his room, so he should get everything and run away. At night, the princess tells the king that she put curses on all the students except for the hero, so all they need is a reason to declare war on the East. He knows that the students are an important piece for him, and he thinks Akira won't survive for long, but he still tells her to make sure the Night Ravens pursue him. Akira heads to a dungeon, since Saran told him it's the best place to hide, and it's also the fastest way for him to increase his class level. But he warned Akira that his skill won't keep him hidden from the high-level monsters, since they have enhanced smell and hearing. He mentioned that if Akira can level up his assassination skill, he'll be able to hide his scent, footsteps, and even his body's signature, so the monsters won't be able to find him. He recalls that Saran told him he still has a long way to go, but Saran thinks the struggle will be worth it, since once his class level reaches 100, he'll be able to unlock a special skill. Saran told him to fight the bosses he'll find on every 10th floor, and as he enters his first boss room, he sees a chimera, which immediately attacks him. He dodges its claws, but its tail shoots a poisonous attack, which causes him to fall to the ground. It stabs him with its claws and throws him away, but he knows that he can't avenge Saran if he dies there, so he activates his shadow magic, which tears the monster to shreds. But we see that he's in critical condition, so the shadow magic automatically goes into recovery mode and starts healing him. Meanwhile, Sato thinks they should go to fight the Demon Lord, but the others disagree with him, telling him they're still in shock since Akira killed Saran. He realizes that they're under the princess's curse that Gillis told him about, so he decides to go on his own, but a few other students decide to join him. After they leave the city, Sato wonders why the others joined him, and a girl named Yuki mentions that none of them are under the princess's curse. Another student named Asashi thinks he has something to do with it, revealing that he has a hazy memory of destroying crystals in a mysterious room. We learn that Gillis used his manipulation skill to control Asashi, since it was Saran's final order for him, and Asashi thinks he needs to find Akira. Meanwhile, Akira has a dream about the time he met Asashi while he was working on a job, and Akira asks him to never tell anyone at school about it. He reveals that he doesn't want his sister to find out he's working, and they see a picture of their sisters, realizing they're actually friends. As Akira wakes up, he's surprised to see that his injuries have healed, and he opens up his status, and he realizes that his stats have increased. He's amazed that his shadow magic has also gone up 2 levels, even though he only used it once, thinking it must be the reason why it was easier for him to control it. As he continues moving forward, he runs into a slime, so he cuts it open, but he's surprised to find an elf named Amelia inside it. He tries using a skill called World Eyes to get information about her, but he's overwhelmed by the things he can see, so he quickly cancels the skill and thinks he shouldn't use something that dangerous. She wakes up and tells him she's okay, but he has a hard time believing her, since he knows that her HP is only at 2%. He notices that she also has the World Eyes skill, so when she calls him by his name, he tells her she should have the courtesy to ask him for his name, even though he knows she can see his status. She suddenly falls unconscious, and he realizes that she has a fever, so he takes care of her. She wakes up as she hears her stomach rumbling, and he tells her she should sleep, but she can't rest since she's too hungry. He offers her food, and she asks him where he learned to take care of a sick person, so he notes that he's used to doing it, since he looks after his mother who's always ill. She notices that he wrote something on a rock, so she asks him about it, and he mentions it's the floor they're on. She remembers that he said they were on the 75th floor, and she asks him why they went back to the 69th, so he notes that it was the closest source of water. She wonders if he touched her inappropriately, so he assures her that he didn't do anything, and tells her to go to sleep. She reveals that even though she's royalty, no one has ever taken such good care of her, and they both go to sleep. After that, they head to the 80th floor, where she helps him defeat monsters, but he doesn't understand why she's following him since she's already recovered. So she mentions that she just happens to be going in the same direction, and he tells her he won't protect her if something happens, but she assures him that she can take care of herself. They enter a boss room, where a dragon immediately attacks them with its fire breath, but they manage to dodge it. He conceals his presence, while she hits the dragon with her gravity magic, but it still manages to hit Akira. She tells him it's tracing his mana, so he should diffuse his magic into the surroundings, but he reveals that he can't do it. He attacks the dragon with his dark magic, and he stabs its eye with his sword, causing it to crash to the ground. He reveals that he used the mana around him to defeat the dragon, and Amelia is amazed that he can do that, but it suddenly starts glowing, and it transforms into a cat, which shocks them, and Amelia mentions that it's still alive, revealing that it has a shapeshifter skill. She notes that a real dragon wouldn't have gone down that easily, which makes Akira wonder if she's using her world eyes, but she wonders why he isn't using it, so he tells her he can't control it. The cat can't believe that it lost to them, and reveals that it transformed into a dragon for fun, but ended up taking it too far. He's surprised that it can speak, and it tells them to stop treating it like a monster that only acts on instincts, revealing that it was created by the Demon Lord to be a highly intelligent creature. It thinks a young boy like Akira doesn't know anything, and he reminds it of the situation it's in, but it doesn't care what they do to it as long as it can deliver the Demon Lord's message. It suddenly stands up, and notes that the Demon Lord is waiting for Akira in his castle, which makes him wonder how the Demon Lord knows him, but the cat notes that it has no idea. It lies on the ground, telling him to end its life, since it has fulfilled its duty, but he refuses to kill it, since he doesn't believe that demons are evil. Amelia notes that if they don't eliminate the cat, the boss room won't open, but he still refuses to kill it since he likes cats. So it asks him if he's willing to starve to death there, but he thinks there must be another way out of the room, and she mentions that they can leave if he makes it his familiar. But it tells them the ritual requires the master to have excellent mana control, which it doesn't think Akira has. But Amelia notes that the attack he used is something only the first hero has accomplished, so she's sure that he can start the ritual, but she isn't sure if he'll succeed. He wonders what will happen if he fails, so the cat tells him both of them may end up dying, but he doesn't care and decides to go through with it. Amelia doesn't understand why he's willing to go to such great lengths instead of just eliminating the cat, but he mentions that he's already made up his mind. It tells him to do whatever he likes, and he's angry that it doesn't care about its life, but the cat mentions that nothing good will come if it continues living. He asks Amelia how to start the ritual, and she tells him to name the cat, so he calls it Yoru. She tells him to pour his mana into it, and she warns him he won't be able to stop once he starts the ritual, but he assures her that he won't die. As he begins pouring his mana, he suddenly finds himself inside Yoru's mind, and he sees it destroying a town. He tries to stop it, but it hits him with an energy beam and tells him to eliminate it, or his soul will perish there. It hits him with its claws, and his real body also starts to bleed, which makes Amelia worry. He throws knives at Yoru, and it thinks he has finally started to fight seriously, so it starts to transform, but he allows himself to get stabbed by its claw. He tells Yoru he won't eliminate it, and he knows that it doesn't want to kill him as well, so it tells him that it's a monster's instinct to hurt other races, but he knows that it's sick and tired of living that way. He tells Yoru he'll look after it, and make sure it doesn't cause such destruction again, which calms it down, and he succeeds in forming a monster pact. As Akira wakes up, he puts a hand on Yoru, which changes the symbol on its body, and Amelia mentions that it means their souls have been linked. It pledges its loyalty to him, and a teleportation circle appears in front of them, so he thinks about moving forward. But he knows that Yoru is still injured, and it notes that the circle won't disappear until they go through it, so they should wait for it to recover. Amelia suggests talking with each other to pass the time, and Yoru agrees with her, since it's a chance for them to get to know each other. Meanwhile, Sato and the others arrive at a town, but they're surprised to see that it looks just like Japan. They put on new clothes and enjoy the food, but Sato notes that they should discuss the situation, and he mentions that the first thing they need to do is find a job. So Nanase thinks they should register in a guild and become adventurers, and Sato agrees with him, telling everyone they also need to gather information about this world. One of them, named Daisuke, wonders if there's a book on how they can get back to their world, and Sato thinks the only way to do it is to defeat the Demon Lord. He notes that the king and princess must know how to send them back, since they were the ones who summoned them, and he thinks they can negotiate with them if they defeat the Demon Lord. He mentions that they should go to the Demon Lord's continent as soon as possible, but Asashi disagrees with his plan, and thinks they should stay there until they meet up with Akira. He thinks that Akira is stronger than all of them, so it would be foolish to challenge the Demon Lord without him, but everyone has different opinions about him. They tell Sato to make the final decision, and he thinks Akira won't team up with them, because even though they've been in the same class since kindergarten, Akira still doesn't recognize him. He knows that only the hero's holy sword can defeat the demon lord, which means they need teamwork to pull it off, but Akira won't be interested in it since he's stronger than they are. He thinks they should only work with Akira once they're as strong as him, and he decides to stay there to wait for Akira, but only if the monsters in the area are strong enough to help them train. In the dungeon, Emilia reveals that she had to run away from her hometown, and when they caught up to her, she used her gravity magic to break the cliff and get away from them. She fell into the river and ended up washing up on a shore, where she was swallowed by a dark slime. She saw Akira when she woke up, and she doesn't mind what happened, since it led to her meeting with him, but he tells her she needs to go back and sort things out. He knows that her little sister has a problem with her, so Emilia should talk it out with her, but she thinks it isn't possible. He tells her about the time he bought a new phone for his sister, but she got angry since she didn't want him to work harder just to buy her stuff, so their mother told her it's because he loves her. He tells Emilia that even if they fight with their loved ones, they're still family at the end of the day, and he wishes that he could see his mother and sister, but he refuses to go back until he avenges Saran. A dark energy appears around him, but he manages to snap out of it, and Yoru tells him to control his bloodlust. They mention that they've also heard about Saran, and Akira uses his gloves to play with Yoru to try and lighten the mood. He starts petting Yoru, who tells him to take this situation seriously, because if one of them is eliminated, the other will die as well. But they can communicate with each other no matter how far apart they are, since their souls are already linked. Emilia is jealous hearing this, so Akira notes that there's nothing she can do, since Yoru is his familiar. As they prepare to go through the circle, Emilia notes that she heard rumors that it will take them to wherever one of them wants to go. But she doesn't care where they get teleported to as long as she's with Akira, who wonders if it can also return him to his world, but he dismisses the thought, since it isn't the right time for him to go back. They end up getting teleported to the land of the elves, which shocks Emilia, but there's an elf that shoots at her. So Akira protects her, and he quickly gets close to the elf, threatening to kill him if he doesn't stop. The elf tells her she doesn't have a place there anymore, so she should just run away again, but Akira knocks him out. He notices that they've already been surrounded, and Emilia's sister Rose declares that she will make Emilia pay for the sin that she committed. In a flashback, we see Emilia going on a walk, and she's impressed when she sees Rose training with the knights, where she manages to disarm them, but her attendant reminds her that she's the one who will be their next leader. But her fiancé Liam ends up wanting to call off their engagement. Rose tells Emilia it's because she's a child of Blight, and she ends up being accused of an unforgivable sin. In the present, Akira wonders about what Emilia did, so Rose reveals that she was poisoned by her, but Emilia swears she thought she was giving her a potion. Rose tells Akira to hand Emilia over, and she uses her mesmerize skill to control him. Emilia gets angry, telling her sister to undo her spell, so that Akira can decide what he wants to do for himself, and Rose is surprised seeing Emilia angry at her for the first time, but Akira reveals that he wasn't affected, and Yoru notes that the skill doesn't work on those who are above her level. Rose doesn't believe that Akira is stronger than her, but he tells her to drop Emilia's false charges, because he knows she isn't the type to lie and deceive. Rose orders the other elves to kill Akira, so he prepares to fight, but the king suddenly appears and tells them to stop. Rose is surprised to see him since he's supposed to be away, and he asks her what's going on. All the other elves speak for her, mentioning Emilia's crime, but the king can see that Rose charmed them all with her mesmerize skill, so he tells her to release them from her control. He promises to make things right with Emilia, but he tells Akira to leave, and Emilia mentions that Akira was the one who saved her. He tells her it doesn't matter, because the other races are forbidden to be there, so she decides to leave as well, but he doesn't allow it, since she's the one who will one day take his place. Akira mentions that Emilia can decide what to do for herself, and he even threatens the king. The king sees that he had the skill to defeat Liam, so he challenges Akira to a duel, where the winner will decide what happens. He nominates Rose to fight in his place, and decides to do it in front of the holy tree. As they head over, Emilia apologizes for getting Akira involved, but he says it was his own decision. He wonders why they called her a child of Blight, so she explains the legends that mention that when twins are born, and one is different from their parents, they are said to bring calamity to the land in the future. Yoru notes that the legend was long dismissed as a superstition, so he thinks Rose bringing it up was just out of jealousy for her, and Akira mentions that he thinks her hair is beautiful. They reach the holy tree, and Akira decides not to use his concealed presence so that everyone can see when he wins, but Emilia warns him that Rose is the strongest swordsman among the elves. Akira is surprised she's praising her, so she notes that they used to be close, and she still sees her as her precious little sister. As they prepare to fight, Rose can't believe he isn't drawing his sword, so he notes that he doesn't want to accidentally kill her. The king tells them to start, and Rose immediately attacks, but Akira is able to avoid her sword, and he pushes her away. She thinks he's toying with her, so she enhances her sword with her wind magic and blasts him with it, but he manages to get out of the way. He gets close to her and sweeps her leg, knocking her down, and he asks her if she's had enough. He mentions how Emilia praised her, hoping they can work things out, but she notes that Emilia stole everything from her. She continues her attack, pushing him back, but her magic starts to go out of control, so Akira orders Yoru to protect Emilia. In a flashback, we see Rose admiring Emilia's hair, but after Emilia's class was identified as a legendary spirit medium, she received all the attention. She insists on taking back what's hers, and Emilia tells her she needs to stop. Liam gives her an item to help, and she uses the branch of the holy tree to purify the entire area. All the soldiers are released from Rose's mesmerize, and she thinks it's all over for her, so she prepares her final attack. Akira realizes the people behind him won't survive if he dodges it, so he activates his shadow magic and manages to devour the wind, but as it's about to consume Rose as well, he calls it back, and it ends up covering his body. Rose refuses to lose, but he blocks her attack and sends her flying. She thinks Emilia and Liam are there to laugh at her, since they broke her mesmerize so easily, but Emilia mentions that Liam was never under her control. She doesn't believe her and tells her to punish her however she likes, but the king suddenly admits that he was the one that was wrong. He reveals that Emilia never took anything from her, and he actually used his skill to erase her memories. He gives them back to her, and we see her wanting to become stronger. She goes to the dungeon, where a mysterious person gives her an orb that can attract monsters, telling her that defeating them will help her level up faster. So she uses it in the dungeon, but there are too many monsters that appear, and she quickly gets overwhelmed. She runs outside, but is shocked because they shouldn't be able to follow her. She thinks she needs to fight so that no one else is harmed, and Liam comes running with the other knights, but he ends up getting stabbed by a goblin. The king explains that she fell into despair from guilt after Liam died, so he had to take away her memory, but Emilia was thankfully able to create resurrection magic, so Liam was able to be saved. But after that, Rose felt a distancing from everyone, because she was the only one who didn't know the truth. The king realizes that trying to keep the secret led to a wall forming between them, so he wanted her to boost her confidence with the duel, so she wouldn't need to rely on her mesmerize skill, and he wanted to reveal the truth once her heart was stronger. He mentions that when Liam was revived, a leaf from the holy tree merged with his body, so he became immune to the mesmerize skill, and he explains he tried to help her make peace, but Emilia ended up being exiled. Rose can't believe that she mistook everyone's concern for pity, and made even her sister who always looked out for her enemy, but Emilia tells her she was always a kind person, and they seem to all finally be able to make up. After that, they have a feast, and Akira reminds the king that he was the winner, so Emilia is free to do whatever she wants. The king wonders where he will go next, so he mentions that Yoru told him about the Beastmen continent, because it's a good place to acquire and maintain weapons, and Emilia decides to follow him wherever he goes. Meanwhile, we see Sato and the others on a ship, and he apologizes to Asashi for not being able to wait for Akira, but we learn that they're also headed to the Beastmen continent to improve their weapons. Rose tells Emilia to return anytime she wants, while Liam asks Akira to take care of her, and the king notes that the soldiers will escort them to the port. He mentions that kidnappings have been reported along the coast lately, but Emilia tells him not to worry, since Akira will protect her. As they ride the carriage, Akira asks Yoru why he was silent when they were with the king, so he explains he didn't want to cause any problems. He reveals that his senses are still linked to the Demon Lord, but he's free from his control, and he notes that the Demon Lord wants to meet Akira. Emilia thinks he wants to befriend Akira, and Yoru reveals that he finds Akira interesting since he was able to surround himself with shadow magic during the last battle. He explains that he was only able to do it since he was desperate to save Rose, but he suddenly senses a presence, so he orders the carriage to stop. They see bandits following them, and they tell everyone to tie themselves up, threatening to kill a girl if they don't cooperate. The elves realize that they're the kidnappers everyone's talking about, and they recognize Amelia as an elven princess. So they realize they hit the jackpot, and think their Lord Graham will be happy when they offer her to him. Akira uses his skill to knock them out in an instant, and tells the elves to tie them up, while Amelia frees their hostage. An elf mentions that he heard about their boss Graham, revealing that he's a royal in the Beastmen continent, and Akira tells the elves to take the kidnappers back to the palace. Akira's group reaches the port, and he notes that he wants to get stronger so that he can avenge Saran. Yora tells him there's a labyrinth in the port city where he can grind to increase his level, but it will take a few days to reach it, so they should just relax for now. Amelia is having a good time since it's her first time traveling by ship, but she realizes that Akira is busy reading books. He reveals that he got them from her father as a parting gift, but she's upset since he isn't enjoying the trip with her, and after some time, they finally reach the port city. Akira realizes that the humans are working for the beast folk, and as he walks around the city, a group of beastmen tells him to give Amelia to them. But he refuses to cooperate, so they threaten to beat him up, thinking he doesn't stand a chance since he's just a human. So he realizes that the beast folk look down on humans, and they prepare to attack him, but he uses his shadow magic to blind them. He walks past them, and we learn that he didn't crush them since he didn't want to cause a scene, but Amelia realizes that the beast folk are afraid of Yoru. She wonders why they fear him, so he notes that there's a reason why black cats are welcome on this continent, but we see a man hiding as he watches them. They eat dinner in a hotel, and prepare to go to bed, but Amelia mentions that she wants to sleep beside Akira. He tells her they should sleep on separate beds, but Yoru knows what she's up to, so he leaves them in the room, telling them to enjoy their time together. She takes a shower, but when she returns to the room, she realizes that Akira is already asleep, so she kisses him and tells him to sleep well. But we learn that he's just pretending to be asleep, since he doesn't know what to do in this situation. The next day, Yoru returns to Akira, and thinks he had a good time, since he's slept beside Amelia. Yoru tells them to prepare since they're about to meet someone, and a smith named Crow visits them, as Yoru reveals that he talked to him last night. Crow notes that he had no choice since the Nightmare of Adlia summoned him, and Yoru reveals that he wanted Akira to meet Crow, since he's the best smith in the world. He looks at Akira's sword, and realizes that it's overused, but he notes that he can fix it with the right budget and materials. So Akira promises to give him what he needs, and notes that he also wants assassin tools, but Crow thinks Akira isn't worthy to wield the weapons he'll make, since he lacks the experience. Amelia thinks Crow knows nothing about combat, but Yoru reveals that he was a member of the last Heroes Party, so he's an experienced fighter. He gives Akira a list of the materials he needs, and as he leaves, he mentions that he'll keep the sword until he finishes repairing it. Yoru admits that he's difficult to deal with, but he assures Akira that Crow is the perfect person for the job, telling Akira he can find the materials by hunting monsters in the labyrinth. Amelia mentions that she needs to go out, since she wants to talk to Crow, and Akira orders Yoru to follow her, telling him to use telepathy in case something happens. Amelia and Yoru visit Crow, who asks them what they want, and Amelia knows that he and the hero were the only ones who survived, when their party failed to defeat the Demon Lord. He mentions that they had an elf who didn't make it, so he thinks she's there to scold him for abandoning his comrade, but she believes that he survived because he's a capable fighter. She tells him to teach her how to fight, but he mentions that he won't accept disciples, since the ones he trained ended up as failures, but she promises not to fail him. She explains that she wants to get stronger, since she wants to stay by Akira's side, but she knows that she's nothing compared to him. He calls Yoru the Nightmare of Adlia, and reminds him that he'll only accept requests for fixing and forging weapons, but Yoru tells him to stop calling him that. Crow mentions that he deserves it, since he terrorized the beast folk on this continent, and Amelia asks him what he did before he met Akira. In a flashback to 100 years ago, we learn that Adlia was the most prosperous city on the continent, but they attacked the demon territory, so the demon lord sent Yoru to give them a warning. But he ended up destroying the city, as his demonic instincts took over, and the beast folk tried to fight back. But they were no match for him, and after the incident, the beast folk started calling him the Nightmare of Adlia. Back in the present, Akira learns about it since his mind is connected to Yoru, who notes that he has changed, since he now has a new master. Crow finds it difficult to believe, but notes that he never hated Yoru, and he mentions that the tale doesn't end there. In another flashback, we see Crow paying respects to his sister, and Yora recognizes him as a member of the Heroes Party, asking him if he wants to fight. But he explains that he doesn't hate Yoru, since the Demon Lord was just using him, and Crow notes that he wasn't the one who killed his sister. He reveals that she tried to rescue the people trapped in Adlia, but Graham was afraid that Yoru would return to finish them off, so he ordered his men to kill them. We return to the present, as Crow reveals that he didn't get revenge, since he knows that his sister doesn't want him to go down that path. But Amelia mentions that she feels sorry for his sister, since he's using her as an excuse for his cowardice. She reveals that she was the same before she met Akira, because she turned back on herself and thought she was doing it for her sister, but he helped her realize how wrong she was. We see Akira looking for the labyrinth, when monsters suddenly appear and start attacking the city. The people run for their lives, and Amelia crushes the monsters with her magic, while Yora helps the civilians escape. But the man who was watching them appears, and she recognizes him as the person who tricked Rose. He introduces himself as Orym, and reveals that the Demon Lord ordered him to spare her, before summoning the monsters to surround her. We see Akira as he takes out a monster, but Yora tells him that Amelia was kidnapped, and notes that she was taken to the labyrinth. So he decides to go there, and cuts down the monsters in his path, but he realizes that there are too many of them. So he orders Yora to stay back, and he uses his Shadow Helm magic, which targets all the monsters in the area. But he screams as he channels it, and he realizes that Amelia is precious to him, since it's the first time he's ever felt rage. He manages to wipe out the monsters, but we see that he has also reached his limit, and he ends up collapsing. Yora rushes to his side, but his shadow magic automatically switches to recovery mode and it heals his body. When he wakes up, Yoru explains that he carried him back to Crow's house, but he's been unconscious for over a day, and he would have died if it wasn't for his shadow magic. He wonders what kind of magic it really is, but Akira thinks they have more important things to worry about. He immediately thinks about going after Amelia, but Crow notes that it's been over a day, so she could have even been taken to the demon realm. Akira doesn't care, so Crow tells him to calm down, asking him how he intends to fight a demon without his weapons. He reveals that he finished fixing them, and Akira sees that he split his sword into two, as Crow mentions that short swords are more suitable for assassins. He also gives Akira a ring, which was crafted by a previous hero, and he explains that it can guide him to whatever he's looking for. So he tries it out, shooting out a red beam, and Yora notes that it's still pointing to the labyrinth, so Amelia hasn't been taken to the demon realm yet. Akira instantly heads off, and Yora tells him not to be so reckless again. Meanwhile in the labyrinth, we see Orym as he mentions that demons have a spell to control monsters, and it seems it can also be used to immobilize elves. Amelia wonders what they're doing in the labyrinth, so Orym notes that demons need to be at least 2nd grade to use teleportation, and since he's only grade 3, he's waiting for his boss to arrive. Akira continues following his ring, and he confirms they need to go into the labyrinth, but there's a girl that suddenly appears, and Akira remembers seeing her. She asks to go with him to find Amelia, but he suddenly grabs her, asking her how she knows that Amelia is in the labyrinth, so she explains she used her scent tracking skill which led her there. He wonders what she wants with Amelia, so she reveals herself as Leah, the first princess of the Beast Folk. She heard that Amelia was being targeted by the Demon Lord, so she came to warn them, but she was too late. Akira uses his World Eye skill and sees that she isn't lying. He also asks about her Spirit Barrier skill, which surprises her how he knows about it, but she explains that normal barriers must be placed in static locations, while her Spirit Barrier can be placed on moving objects, including people. She swears to be useful, and she thinks they can't let the Demon Lord get his hands on Amelia's resurrection magic, so Akira allows her to come with them. Meanwhile, Amelia also learns about what the Demon Lord wants with her, but she thinks that demons already basically can live forever, so she wonders why they're interested in her resurrection magic, but Orym isn't sure, since he's just following orders. As Akira heads to the labyrinth, he wonders what Leah was doing in Ratis when he first met her, so she mentions that she was looking for her family, who were abducted by a dark slime. She explains she was adopted by the royal family, but before that, she lived in a small remote village. There was a dark slime that just appeared one day, and it ended up swallowing up everyone. Akira thinks it's the same thing that happened to Amelia, and Leah explains that the royal family adopted her for her skills as a protector. She then looked into the incident as a princess, and it's what led her to Ratis. It turns out it wasn't just her village, and there were many humans and beast folk that went missing. They all ended up being used as sacrifices to summon the heroes, which is why she doesn't like them. Akira notes that he was also one of the ones who was summoned, but she doesn't blame him, since she thinks the king and the princess were the ones responsible. Akira mentions how he also doesn't believe he was summoned to stop the demons, and Yoru confirms that it was a lie, because the demons haven't made any advances in over a century. They arrive at the labyrinth, and we learn that they need to defeat monsters on every floor to go deeper. Akira thinks about using his shadow magic, but Yoru tells him to conserve his energy, mentioning that he can fight instead, but he worries about losing control of himself, so Akira tells him not to worry, because he's there to watch over him. He instantly transforms, and he starts going wild, crushing through the monsters. He starts to lose control, but Akira manages to connect with him and calm his mind. They talk about why everyone hates the demons, so Yoru mentions that the first demon lord did attack the other races, and it became a notion that the demons were the root of all evil, but Yoru notes that not all demons are like that. Akira thinks it's a shame, but mentions that if the demon lord is behind Amelia's abduction, he won't show him any mercy. They eventually make it to Amelia, and Orym is impressed that they got there so quickly. Yoru notes that he has reached his limit, but Akira thanks him for getting them there. They prepare to fight, and Leah casts her barrier on Amelia. She apologizes to Akira for getting him involved, but he notes that he's just doing what he wants. He tries to attack Orym from behind, but it doesn't work, and he ends up getting hit instead. Despite Akira's attacks, Orym easily dodges everything and stabs him again. Leah can't believe it's going through her barrier, so Yoru notes that Orym's spear is enhanced with concentrated mana. Orym thinks he should end things, but Akira activates his shadow magic. It consumes his own blood from the floor, and he summons shadow beasts to attack, and while Orym is distracted, he manages to land a decisive hit. Orym is brought to his knees, but Akira seems to also be reaching his limit. Orym starts playing his flute, which draws out a number of monsters to attack Akira. As they charge up their attacks, Akira realizes he can't use his shadow magic again, but Leah suddenly uses her inverted barrier on him, which uses up all her energy, but it's able to block the attacks and reflect the damage back at the monsters, killing them in an instant. Amelia is freed thanks to Orym being weakened, and he tells Akira to just finish him off since he isn't going to surrender, but Akira hesitates to kill him. He thinks about what Saran would tell him to do, but a teleportation circle appears, and the second-grade demon Mahiro suddenly joins them. Yoru tells Akira not to fight him head-on, since he's no match for him, and Mahiro tells Orym to rest, before pushing him away. He snaps his finger, and Leah's barrier shatters, so Akira tells her to stay back, but Mahiro reveals that he has no business with her. He uses his marionette spell, and Akira tries to block it, but he realizes that he isn't the target, and Amelia screams as it hits her. Akira is angry that he hurt her, but he explains that he didn't kill her, and tries to provoke Akira into attacking him. He knows that he doesn't stand a chance against Mahiro, so he plans to make saving her his priority, but Mahiro reveals that his goal is to kidnap her, and he blocks all of the doors. Akira knows that he can't fight at his full strength, since he just used his shadow magic, and Mahiro asks him if his name is written in kanji, revealing that he also lived in Japan before he was summoned. So Akira wonders why he's working with the demons, but Mahiro uses his magic to attack him, and Akira manages to avoid it, but it turns around and hits him. He charges in, but Mahiro pushes him back, and continues to summon projectiles to attack him, so he uses his shadow magic to protect himself. Mahiro notes that his magic is interesting, but he knows that Akira is running out of mana, and he thinks it's a shame, since he wanted to see him at full power. He prepares to attack again, so Akira realizes he's in trouble, but Yoru joins the fight, and he tells Mahiro that he no longer serves the Demon Lord. He tells Akira he wants to nullify their pact, and notes that he'll put everything on the line to defeat Mahiro, but Akira is against his plan. Mahiro has no idea what they're talking about, but he decides to wait for them to finish their conversation, since he thinks it's the last time they'll be talking to each other. Akira tells Yoru that they can fight together to defeat him, and Yoru transforms into Saran, revealing that it's the only form that can rival Mahiro. But he tells Akira that he can't maintain his form for long, so they need to end the fight quickly. Mahiro attacks them with his magic arrows, so they jump away, and Yoru summons a giant hammer of light, while Akira realizes that it's extending the shadows, so he thinks they can win the fight. Mahiro creates a huge barrier to block the hammer, and summons lightning bolts to attack Akira and Yoru, who run towards Mahiro to dodge them. Akira surrounds his body with his shadow magic, and starts attacking Mahiro, who defends himself with a magic blade. Akira struggles to keep up with him, but Yoru charges in, and they attack Mahiro together. Akira thinks that if Saran were still alive, they would have enjoyed fighting together, but Akira is sad since he knows that it will never happen. They start to overwhelm Mahiro, who ends up getting hit, and Yoru notes that his shapeshift is about to wear off, but Akira is confident that they can defeat Mahiro with his next move. Mahiro snaps his finger, and Akira thinks he's out of mana since nothing happened, but he suddenly gets stabbed from behind. He realizes that Mahiro controlled Amelia, who cries as she sees what she has done, and Akira falls to the ground. Amelia apologizes for stabbing Akira, who tells her it isn't her fault, and Yoru returns to normal as he realizes that Mahiro used the marionette spell to control her. He explains that the spell draws out the target's latent power and even buffs them with his stats, which explains why she was able to hurt Akira. He passes away, but a voice mentions that his body has entered recovery mode, and a light suddenly surrounds him. Mahiro uses his spell to attack him, but it has no effect, and Akira's body instantly recovers. He gets back up, which surprises everyone, and the voice mentions that he's about to enter combat mode. Mahiro rushes forward, but Akira overpowers him, and he summons magic blades to attack, but Akira uses his shadows to block them and restrain him. The voice warns him to cancel the marionette spell, but he refuses to cooperate, and notes that humans are nothing compared to demons. The voice tells him not to make assumptions, and notes that hard work isn't always rewarded, but it's wrong to give up without even trying. Mahiro becomes upset and creates magic needles to attack Amelia, but Akira suddenly returns to normal, and he sees that she's in trouble, so he protects her with his body. But the needles disappear before they hit him, as everyone realizes that Crow dispelled Mahiro's magic. Mahiro can't believe he's still alive, since beast folk only live a century longer than humans, and he notes that he's no longer as powerful as he used to be, but he still hasn't lost his edge. Mahiro believes him since he was able to dispel his magic in an instant, so he creates a teleportation circle and leaves with Aurum. Leah notes that she wasn't expecting Crow to come, and Akira asks him if he knows about Mahiro, but he just tells Akira to rest, and he suddenly collapses. Akira wakes up, and Yoru tells him he's been out for 3 days, but he's glad that he woke up by Amelia's side. He thanks Crow for saving them, but he asks him about Leah, so Crow reveals that he sent her back to the royal palace. He tells Akira's visitors to come in, and he realizes that it's Sato and the others, but he wonders what they're doing there. Gillis reveals that he knows Crow, since their party buys weapons from him, and Sato notes that Gillis controlled Asashi, so that he could break their curse. Akira asks Gillis if it's okay for him to be away from the palace, so he explains that he's no longer a knight since he was fired, saying the king saw their order as a nuisance. Asashi wants Akira to join them, but Yoru is against it, since he thinks he's the only partner Akira needs. Asashi starts arguing with him, but Akira tells them to calm down, and explains that he's glad their party is doing well, but he asks them about their plans. Sato notes that they want to defeat the Demon Lord, but Yoru knows that they don't stand a chance, and Yuki mentions that she doesn't like him, since he's been bothering them. So Akira tells him to let him talk to them alone, and he asks them why they want to defeat the Demon Lord, so Sato explains that it's to convince the king to send them back to their world. They ask him to fight by their side, even though they know that he's stronger than them, but he thinks the king will never negotiate with them, since he uses curses to control people, and even killed Saran. Sato admits that he has a point, and asks him if there are other issues, so he recalls how human lives were sacrificed to perform the summoning ritual, but he decides not to tell everyone about it. They ask him how he plans to go home, so he explains that second-grade demons can create teleportation circles, and he thinks there's a chance that they can take them back to their world. He plans to go to the demon lands to hunt Mahiro down, and notes that he needs to do something before that, but he tells them he doesn't need their help, since they'll only get in his way. After that, Gillis leaves to discuss their order with Crow, and everyone's upset that Akira doesn't want to join them, but they're determined to prove themselves to him. Akira sees Amelia staring at the ocean, and she tells him she's afraid to be separated from him, knowing he'll return to his world. She apologizes for stabbing him and tells him she feels guilty for hurting him, but she's glad she left a scar on him since he'll remember her wherever he goes. She thinks it makes her a terrible person, but he tells her she's important to him, and he takes out his sword, as he explains that the couples in his world wear rings when they get married. He cuts his ring finger and confesses his feelings to her, so she hugs him and tells him she also loves him. She wants him to be loyal to her and never leave her side, and he promises to fulfill her wish, so she immediately kisses him. We return to Sato and the others, as they wonder how they can prove themselves to Akira, and a girl named Tomoya mentions that she heard about an annual festival in a nearby town. She notes that a beauty pageant is part of that festival, but the winner always goes missing, and there are rumors that they're being sold on the black market. They think Akira might change his mind if they capture the person responsible for it, since he'll stop seeing them as dead weight, and Sato notes that it's worth a shot. They head to the town with Akira and Emilia, and they tell her she can win prizes by joining the pageant, so she decides to participate. They see a demon named Lottie, who's arguing with a receptionist, since demons aren't allowed to join the pageant. She thinks the rules are racist, but Akira finds it hard to believe that she's a demon, since he can't sense her powers. Emilia approaches the receptionist, who recognizes her as a princess of the elves, so she allows her to participate. Lottie tells Akira to convince the receptionist to let her join, but Emilia becomes jealous and asks him if he likes Lottie, so he tells her that it isn't the case. Lottie continues to argue with the receptionist, and Emilia tells him to help her, explaining that she has nothing against her. So he tells the receptionist to let her join, promising to stop her if she tries anything, so the receptionist allows her to participate. Lottie is glad that he helped her, but she recognizes Yoru, who tells her he made a pact with Akira, but it doesn't bother her at all. She decides to spend time with them before the pageant begins, and she introduces herself to everyone, telling them to vote for her so that she can win the contest. She gives a random person her autograph and tells everyone to gather around so that she can meet and greet them. Akira can't believe she's a demon since she's entertaining her fans, and Yoru notes that she's nothing like the others. Akira hears two girls talking about him, but they run when they see him looking at them, and Crow tells him he's famous since everyone saw him when he defeated the monsters to save the city. Crow notes that everyone calls him the Silent Assassin, and he gives him a yellow dog tag, telling him it's from the Adventurers Guild. He tells Akira that he's been promoted to yellow rank as a reward for defeating the monsters, and Emilia reveals that she's silver rank, which is higher than yellow. But she notes that it's lower than gold rank, which has been awarded to only 3 people in the world, and she reveals that Rose is one of them. Sato and Asashi tell him they're also yellow rank, so he can talk to them if he wants to learn how to make a living as an adventurer, but Emilia leaves to try the food at the festival. Akira orders Yoru to go with her and take out anyone who tries to make a move on her, so he watches her as she talks to the other candidates. Akira wonders why Crow joined them, since he doesn't seem to enjoy festivities, and he tells Akira he has a little sister, but she isn't the reason why he hasn't exacted revenge. He notes that he has simply grown too old, but Akira tells him he still looks young, so he explains that beast folk age in a different way, revealing that he has already lost a lot of his powers. He mentions that killing Graham won't be easy, since he has mercenaries guarding him at all times, and Crow notes that Emilia was targeted when she entered the country, since Graham sold the intel to the demons. Akira asks Crow if he's sure about it, so he reveals that he verified it while Akira was sleeping, and notes that he placed a magic crystal in Leah's staff, which allowed him to find out they were in trouble. He reveals that he saved them so that they would owe him a favor, and tells Akira he has a job request for him, but Akira is shocked as Crow tells him about it. He tells Akira to take his time to think about it, but Gillis notes that they need to find an inn, and Crow mentions that they can use his name at the pageant so that they will get a good spot. During the event, Yuki steps on stage, and Sato thinks she's pretty, while Asashi is glad that Crow helped them get a good spot, since Akira stands out in public. Shiori also gets on stage, and everyone thinks she's gorgeous, but Yoru knows that Emilia is up next. We learn that everyone's expecting her to win, and as the host introduces her as the next candidate, Yoru can't believe how beautiful she is. Everyone waits for the last participant to appear, and they see that it's Lottie, but she puts a crystal on the stage, which creates flashing lights as she removes her cloak, and she tells everyone to vote for her. After a while, the officials finish tallying the votes, and we see that Lottie and Emilia tied for first place. Lottie notes that she tried everything, but she still couldn't beat Amelia, and Akira tells her to be proud of tying with Amelia, but she wonders if he's starting to like her. So he tells her he only has eyes for Amelia, and she mentions that she'll win the pageant next year, but Yora notes that her father won't be happy if she draws too much attention. She mentions that she doesn't care, revealing that she ran away from home after she had a fight with him, and Akira asks Yoru who her father is. So he reveals that she's the Demon Lord's daughter, which surprises everyone, and we see Graham watching them, as he mentions that he smells a good deal in the making. Akira checks Lottie's stats, and realizes that it's insane, but Amelia tells him she knew it all along, telling him to use his world eyes more often, since there are people hiding their strengths. Gillis reveals that they've arranged for their lodging, but he wonders if they need an additional room for Lottie, so she notes that she'll just camp outside, since she knows that humans are afraid of her. That evening, Akira wonders why Amelia needs to return tomorrow to claim her prize, and Sato notes that it's because the prizes weren't prepared on time. Akira wonders how he knows that, so he reveals that it's because he won the men's segment, and Asashi notices that Yoru isn't around, so Akira reveals that he sent him on an errand. Sato and the others leave to take a bath, and Crow reminds Akira about their conversation, but he notes that he still needs time to think about it. Amelia tells him to rest, since he hasn't slept for 2 days, and she takes him to his bed, where she uses her spell to make him fall asleep. She asks Crow what he told Akira, so he reveals that he just offered him work, and she notes that she won't let him do something he doesn't want to do, telling Crow not to compromise his way of life. So he explains that he isn't forcing him to do anything, but notes that Akira might compromise himself because of his desire to protect her. The next day, Lottie wonders where Akira is, so Amelia notes that he's still sleeping, and tells Lottie they shouldn't disturb him just to pick up their prizes. Sato thinks kidnappers will be waiting for them, but they think they need to be careful of Lottie, since they don't know what she's thinking. They reach an abandoned building, where they're supposed to pick up their prizes, but they suddenly get surrounded by criminals, who tell Amelia that Graham wants to see her. So she realizes that they're working for him, and she knows that he's evil, so she refuses to go with them. They prepare to take her by force, but she uses her gravity spell to crush them, and she asks one of them what Graham wants with her. He tries to play dumb, but she knows that he's lying, so she continues to crush him, and he agrees to tell her everything he knows. He reveals that the winners who were kidnapped had their organs harvested and sold, and Graham paid everyone to stay silent so that they wouldn't spread rumors about it. So she realizes that they were planning to sell her off, and she prepares to crush them to death, but Lottie stops her, telling her not to kill them, because even criminals have their own story. We see that Akira can see what's happening, since his mind is linked to Amelia's mana, and he's glad that Lottie stopped her, since he didn't want her to need to kill anyone. Akira asks Gillis about his relationship with Crow, so he notes that Crow used to take on disciples, and his mother was one of them, but she couldn't handle the training and lost her mind, so Crow ended up taking him in. Akira can tell that Crow is the type of person that looks after people, and Gillis tells him to make up his mind about returning the favor to Crow, because he doesn't have much time left. Yoru returns from his investigation, and reports that it was Graham who planted monitoring devices at the pageant. Gillis realizes it's the same device that was used back in the palace, recognizing it as a camera, and Akira is surprised he knows about it, so Yoru notes that they learned about them from past heroes, who shared and recreated them using magic. Gillis mentions that it also applies to things like their clothing and their food, which have all been influenced by past heroes. Amelia and the others return, so Akira calls them to have a meeting. He asks Sato and the others if they knew the pageant was connected to human trafficking, so Asashi apologizes for not telling him, but he mentions that they wanted to prove that they wouldn't just get in the way, even though they didn't do much in the end. Akira decides to take over, since he doesn't want Graham coming after Amelia, and Crow notes that he needs to head to the capital city, since Graham is acting as the guildmaster there. Asashi still wants to help, but Akira tells them they would only get in his way. Crow also mentions that if Akira helps with his request, he will act as a guide for them through the demon territory, so he tells him he will think about it. The others make a plan to go ahead and wait for him on the outskirts of the demon territory, so Crow suggests an old safe house his party used in the past. After that, Amelia goes to talk to Crow, and she tells him to stop burdening Akira, but she also asks to become his disciple. She notes that since she's being targeted, she wants to become stronger so that she doesn't end up forcing Akira onto a path just to protect her, and Crow considers it since he thinks she might be able to handle his training. Gillis and the others see Akira off, and he hands him a bag. He notes that when Akira packed his things as he was leaving the palace, he left it behind. Akira wonders what it is, but Gillis isn't sure, but he notes that it was prepared by Saran, so he thinks it will come in handy. Asashi tells him to stay safe, promising to have gotten stronger by the next time they meet, and they all watch as he heads off. We see Emilia exhausted from her training, and Crow notes that she's his only apprentice who has ever made it to the third day, but he expected this since she's a person that he admired. Akira wonders what he means, so he mentions how she seemed like she was out of a legend, since she created magic that repelled monsters and even resurrected the dead, and later on, when he was asked to help name Leah, he even used part of Emilia's name as inspiration. Akira wonders why he was hard on Emilia when he first met her, but he found her more down to earth than he had imagined, and after training her, he can tell she's the real deal. He mentions teaching her the first hero's counterspell skill, which can negate any magic just by observing it, but it requires first learning an ancient language, which is incredibly complex, with each character carrying magic that can shatter a person's mind if they aren't careful, but Emilia was able to create her own comprehension skill to learn it. Akira wonders how Crow was able to learn it, since it's so difficult, so he mentions that time was on his side. He explains that beast folk have a lifespan twice that of a human's, and his mother took strange drugs while she was pregnant with him, so his life is even longer. Akira thinks he was lucky, but he is actually tired of living, but he can't die until he has avenged his sister, so Akira realizes he's had it rough. We see Yoru preparing to investigate the capital, but he runs into Lottie. She wonders where Akira and Emilia are, so he mentions he went ahead to gather information, and she suddenly decides to join him since it sounds fun. When Emilia wakes up, she finds that they have arrived in the capital city of Urek. Crow mentions he will go to prepare their lodging, telling them they have time to look around and meet up with Leah at the central fountain. Akira and Emilia decide to have a date, and Akira tells her to eat as much of the food as she wants, as a reward for studying the ancient language so hard every day. She wishes they could be like this every day, but Akira hesitates as he thinks of something, but she tells him not to worry, because she's about to become stronger, so he won't need to worry about her anymore. They meet up with Leah by the fountain, and she's happy to see them again. She acts as their guide around the city, and she takes them on a boat ride. They see the palace in the distance, and Leah mentions that everyone is waiting to meet them there, because the king has prepared a banquet for Emilia. Akira thanks Leah for saving his life back when they were fighting Aurum, and he asks her about her inverted barrier spell, because it reminded him of Crow's magic. She's flattered hearing this, but she notes that she's nothing compared to Crow, and she's shocked when she finds out that Emilia is learning Crow's inversion spell. She also thinks that Akira's shadow magic was incredible, but he isn't so sure about it, since his body just moved on its own. After that, they meet with King Igsum, and he notes that even though Leah is adopted, she's still his daughter, so he thanks them for saving her. He also has a request for Akira, but Akira tells him it will depend on what it is. The king's guard captain doesn't like his attitude, but the king calms him down and mentions that the request is just a simple assassination. Akira immediately refuses, but when he hears that Graham is the target, he becomes interested. The king explains that Graham was once their chancellor, but they drove him out to be the guildmaster instead, but now he just uses mercenaries to do whatever he wants. The king thinks he's going to end up destroying the royal family's prestige, but Akira doesn't care about a reason like that. The king offers to trade their protection for the task, but Akira notes that he can protect himself, saying that he doesn't need someone that's weaker than him to guard him. The captain thinks he's too full of himself, and Emilia prepares to defend Akira, but he offers to prove himself so that they can see he isn't delusional, and the king agrees to having him duel the captain. They prepare to fight outside, but Akira throws away his swords, and notes that he'll be fighting with his assassin tools instead. The king starts the fight, and the captain instantly charges at him, smashing the ground to throw rocks at him, but he manages to avoid them. He dodges the captain's next attack, throwing his kunai to catch his leg, but the captain pulls him in. He manages to jump away, thinking it's time to end things, and as he charges in, he destroys the captain's weapon in an instant and holds his blade to his neck. The king is shocked at the result, and Emilia tells him not to question Akira again, but he also comments on their relationship, thinking it's cruel since they have such different lifespans. After that, Akira meets up with Crow at their hotel, and Akira is impressed that it's so fancy, so Crow notes that the owner owes him. Amelia tells Akira that the bed is huge, so she wants to lie down with him, but he turns her down. He starts reading a book, and Crow mentions that Akira reminds him of a person that he once knew. They had an insatiable thirst for knowledge, always reading books, and they ended up being considered a sage. They were a master of both sorcery and the sword, and Akira is shocked to learn that he's talking about Saran. Akira mentions how he wants to avenge Saran, so Crow thinks that their goals align. Akira wonders what he means, so Crow reveals that the night ravens that killed Saran were provided to the king by none other than Graham. Crow reveals that Graham has powerful bodyguards, since he has a drug that enhances their combat skills and makes them obedient, and Crow notes that even Saran would struggle against them. He notes that Graham's clients are demons, and he gives them the people he kidnaps to get materials from the demon realm, which he uses to create the drug. The next day, Leah apologizes to Akira, since she couldn't stop the king from asking him to do his dirty work, so Crow realizes that the king also wants Graham dead. He knows that the king wants to use Akira as an expendable pawn, and Leah thinks it's unacceptable, so she wants to make it up to him by showing him around the town. He decides to accept her offer, and she's happy to hear this, asking Crow if he also wants to join them. She starts showing everyone around, but Amelia observes her while she talks to Crow, and realizes that she's in love with him. Amelia tells her she needs time alone with Akira, and they decide to split up, but Akira thinks about the age gap between Crow and Leah, so Amelia explains that it doesn't matter for beast folk, since they don't visibly age, and she mentions that they need to talk in private. She tells him he doesn't need to accept Crow's request, since they can still make it to the demon realm without him, since she thinks that killing people is wrong. We see Yoru with Lottie, who explains that she decided to stick around, since she doesn't want to return to her father. She reveals that they don't get along, since she doesn't agree with his methods, and Yoru asks her what she means, but she doesn't answer his question. They reach a tavern, where Lottie orders bread, and the shopkeeper thinks she's an adventurer. So he tells her to be careful in Urek, since the guild master puts up dangerous jobs, and he notes that there are rumors that demons are involved. He tells her to accept jobs to transport goods to Ratis, because they're a lot easier, and he notes that the guild master doesn't hire shipping companies, since he wants to keep things quiet. After that, Yoru is impressed since Lottie was able to gather information about Graham, but he wonders why she left her autograph at the shop, so she explains that it was the most important part. We return to Akira, as he explains that he needs to kill Graham, since he wants to avenge Saran and protect Amelia. She promises to get stronger so that nobody can come after her, but he knows that Crow will die a slow death if he turns him down, since he'll be trapped by his desire for revenge. Meanwhile, Leah wonders where Crow is taking her, so he tells her she'll find out when they get there, but she tells him to stop treating her like a child. She wonders why he isn't teaching her his inversion skill, so he explains that he doesn't want to destroy her mind, and shows her a place full of flowers. He notes that they're from Akira's world, but thinks they were brought there by a hero from generations ago, but he stops her from touching them since they're poisonous, and he notes that he finds them beautiful, since they represent the afterlife. She wonders why he brought her there, so he explains that he just wanted to show it to her, and she tells him it's the perfect place to confess his feelings to the girl he likes. She thinks he needs a partner since he's always alone, but he explains that he has no right to be happy, since he's obsessed with avenging his sister. Sato and his friends take down a bear, and they think it's enough to feed them for several days, so they decide to set up camp. Sato notes that Akira always ignored him when they were in Japan, but Asashi thinks he just didn't register in Akira's head, since he doesn't remember a lot of people. They realize that they're just slightly stronger than the average person, but they know that Akira is different, since his stats are on another level. Akira decides to kill Graham, but he wonders if Amelia will hate him if he does it, so she explains that she won't, but she wants him to love himself. He sees a girl checking out the items in a shop, and her mother tells her they need to go, but she refuses to leave. He recalls his sister who didn't want to leave their house when they were about to move out, so their mother told her they didn't have a choice. We learn that Akira's father disappeared when he went out to get milk, so they could no longer afford their rent, and they were forced to move to a smaller apartment. But Akira couldn't bring himself to hate his father, since he looked after his sick mother for years, and even did his best to raise them while he was working. He He tells his sister they need to stick together as a family, since he doesn't want to lose anyone other than their father, and he begs her to go with them. They move to their new home, where Akira cooks for the family, and they tell him it's delicious. His sister promises to cook the next day, and he's surprised since he thought she didn't like cooking, but she tells him they can take turns. Back in the present, Akira thinks he has no right to return to his family if he becomes a murderer, but we cut to his house, where we see his family watching the news. We learn that the authorities are still searching for the missing students, and nobody knows what happened to them, but his sister believes that he will find a way to get back, since he told her they needed to stick together. Lottie enjoys her time in Urek, but Yora reminds her about their mission, so she explains that she's observing the town while she's sightseeing. She sees an adventurer walking around, and she asks him about the high-paying jobs that the guild is offering, but he tells her not to accept them since they involve criminal activity. She wants to know about them, and he refuses to say anything, but he realizes that she has a nice body, so he notes that he can tell her everything in private. She realizes that he's attracted to her, but she tells him she can't get into a relationship since she wants to become everyone's star. So he becomes sad and walks away, while she notes that they could have gathered intel if she accepted his offer, but she values her reputation. Yora suddenly receives orders from Akira, and she agrees to help him since he has done a lot for her. They see Graham's mansion, and Yora notes that their mission is to secure proof that Graham is up to something, but Lottie thinks it will be easier to do it at night. Yoru agrees that they should wait until the evening, so they decide to check out the other spots in the meantime, and they head to the Adventurers Guild. Yoru wonders how they should sneak in, but Lottie walks through the front door, and she sees a group of men, who tell her the guild is closed for the day. She wonders what they're doing there, so they explain that the people who do Graham's dirty work get to stay and drink, but she isn't allowed to hang out with them since she's an outsider. One of them finds her attractive, and he asks her if she wants to have fun, but she easily humbles him and walks away. She tells Yora she noticed something interesting, and notes that the ground floor ceiling doesn't line up with the next floor, so she thinks there's a hidden space. She throws him into the building, and he finds something interesting, so he decides to take it with him. After that, Yora takes the document to Akira, who realizes that it contains proof that Graham is involved in criminal activities. But he wonders why it was so easy to steal the document, and Lottie agrees with him, since Graham could have kept it safe in his mansion. Crow believes he wanted it to be stolen, and we cut to Graham, who thinks one of his officials betrayed him, since they were the only ones who knew about the document. He orders his guard to kill one of them, and tells the others to look for the thief, promising to reward them if they succeed. Crow thinks Ratiz is working with Graham, and they plan to start a war with Urek by giving them proof that their citizens are being trafficked. Akira wonders why Ratiz wants to start a war, so Crow explains that it's because their king plans to bring his wife back from the dead by using a skill called Equivalent Exchange. We learn that the skill allows its user to revive someone, but several lives need to be sacrificed to achieve that, so Akira realizes that the king plans to use the casualties of war to resurrect his wife. Yora wonders how Crow knows so much about Ratiz, so he explains that it's because Gillis worked as one of their knights, but he was fired after he stopped the king from going to war with another nation. Akira destroys the document, but Crow notes that it won't stop the war from happening, and tells him his friends in Ratiz will be sent to the front lines if war breaks out. Akira doesn't care about them, but he can't just let them die, and he realizes that he needs to kill Graham to save them. Lottie mentions that she also gathered intel, but she just tells everyone about a popular restaurant in the city, and notes that a bookstore is having a closing sale. Amelia thinks they need to relax, so they decide to look around the town, and Akira checks the bookstore with Yoru, but a man suddenly steals from them. Yoru uses his powers to get their items back, but he wonders why Akira didn't sense the thief, and he admits that he can't understand anything he's reading, so Yoru notes that they need to talk. He thinks Akira is distracted, so he wants to know what's bothering him, and Akira admits that he's still thinking about his mission, since he's never killed anyone before. Yoru knows that killing can change a person's heart, but explains that there are times when it's absolutely necessary, and he offers to kill Graham in his place. But he explains that ordering someone to do his dirty work is against his moral code, so he'll just look into Graham and decide whether he should kill him. Akira heads to the guild with Amelia, and an adventurer named Raoul tells them to leave, but she tells him they want to talk to Graham. Raoul doesn't like her tone, so he tries to teach her a lesson, but Akira protects her, and a girl named Karia stops them. She reveals that she works for the guild, and she recognizes Akira as the silent assassin, which surprises Raoul. He immediately apologizes for his behavior and reveals that he's a fan of Akira since he saw him defeat monsters to save a city. He tells Akira to accept him as his disciple, but he notes that he doesn't take students, and Graham suddenly appears. He tells Emilia to join him at his mansion, but he notices that Akira is upset, so he tells him not to interrupt them. He notes that Akira shouldn't be wasting his time there, because he was summoned to defeat the Demon Lord, and Graham thinks Saran must be rolling in his grave since Akira isn't doing his job. Graham reveals that he was the one who ordered the Night Ravens to kill Saran, and notes that he died a pathetic death, so Akira promises to make him pay. Graham orders his guards to attack, so Akira takes out his swords and starts fighting, using his skill to turn invisible. But the guards can still see him, since they have mystic eyes like Saran, and he manages to hit one of them, but he realizes that the guard is still alive. He grabs onto one of them and uses him as a shield, but another guard just stabs him and hits Akira. Emilia uses her gravity magic on the guards, but they immediately recover, so Akira tells her they need to retreat. They jump out of the windows and enter an alley, where they meet Lottie, who flies away with them. She takes them to Crow, and notes that she needs to go, since she doesn't want to see Akira kill Graham. He tells Crow everything that happened, and explains that he can't defeat Graham's guards, since there are too many of them. Crow warns him that Graham will do everything to hunt him down, so he realizes that he needs to make up his mind, and notes that he needs time to think about it. We see Graham as his subordinate reports to him, and we learn that they're looking for Emilia, so that he can sell her to the demons. He forces his guards to fight for his amusement, and they end up killing each other, but he thinks it doesn't matter, since he can easily replace them as long as he has his drug. He knows that after he sells Emilia to the demons, he'll have the materials he'll need to mass-produce the drug, and he orders his subordinate to command the guards while he sleeps. We return to Akira, as he realizes that he really needs to kill Graham, but he suddenly sees an orb, and he recalls that Gillis gave it to him. It suddenly activates, and he sees a recording of Saran, who tells him to respect life, so that he can face his family after he returns to his world. Saran tells Akira not to think about avenging him, and notes that revenge is a fool's errand, but Akira cries since he has already made up his mind. He hopes that Saran will give him a good scolding someday, since he has decided not to listen to him, and he tells Crow he'll kill Graham. Emilia tries to stop him, since she knows that he doesn't want to kill anyone, but he tells her to forgive him for what he's about to do. Yora sees him off, and offers to help him out, but Akira notes that he needs to do it alone. He heads to Graham's mansion, where he takes out the guards, but he sees a hitman who also wants to kill Graham. He recognizes Akira as the silent assassin, but he doesn't want him to steal his target, so they start to fight. Akira blocks his attack and disarms him, but the man tries to stab him with his hidden knives, so Akira breaks his leg, and the man gets stabbed by his own sword. Akira finds Graham sleeping, and he still hesitates to kill him, but he takes out his sword and finishes the job. After that, Akira returns to his friends, and he tells Emilia he was able to kill Graham, so he's now a real assassin. He thinks he's an idiot since he could have killed the king of Ortiz to save Saran, and he notes that he isn't the same person he used to be, but Emilia tells him it's okay. She hugs him and tells him she won't leave him no matter what happens to him, and he notes that he might turn into a monster in the future, but he thinks he'll be able to keep going as long as she's with him. Yoru mentions that he has decided to dedicate his life to Akira, so he'll always stay by his side, and we see Lottie watching them, as she notes that she'll settle things with the Demon Lord eventually. Akira prepares to leave with his friends, and Crow mentions that he'll join them since Akira fulfilled his request, so they prepare to head for the Demon Realm. Akira thinks about how he has no right to return to his world after what he did, but he's willing to kill anyone who gets in his way, so that he and the others can make it back. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.